All right. Hello, and welcome to the Philadelphia Sports Podcast, a weekly take on Philly sports through the lens of husbands, fathers, and of course, Philly sports fans. Now, before we start tonight's episode, I want to ask you to please make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification button. Subscription button keeps you connected, and the notification button will notify you anytime one of our episodes are airing because we would love to have you join us. Now, if you like the episode or enjoyed the episode while you're watching, please hit the like button, give us a thumbs up to help us conquer the good old algorithm. So, Malik, how we doing, my friend?
I'm good. Yo, quick question for you.
Yes, sir.
What of the things that you just mentioned, husbands, fathers, and Philly sports fans,
hmm
real talk, what's the hardest one of all three of those?
That's a great question.
It's got to be the last, right?
It is
It's
because
got to be the last.
with the other ones, I control that. There's a level of control that I have in terms of what occurs for me as a father, potentially, and a husband, right? Like there's actions that I can take as an individual that will influence the outcome or output in terms of my capacity
Here
as
is
a
five
husband
seconds.
and or father. When it comes to Philly sports fan, I am at the mercy of someone other than myself, and yet and still, I put my hopes, my
Dreams,
wishes, dreams,
right?
sometimes cold hard cash.
And you know what else is wild? I'm thinking of like husbands, fathers, and Philly sports fans. I was a Philly sports fan first, and there might be days where my family may leave me, but I will always be. I will always be. I don't. It's like a bad relationship. I just can't leave. Like she just
It
keeps
ain't
kicking
going
me,
nowhere.
officer. She just keeps
You'll
beating
always
me.
take me back.
I'm always coming back. I know they beat me. I'm always gonna come back. I know they lied to me. I'm always coming back. I want to be loved. He can change.
I got
He
nowhere
can,
else to go. Where am I go? Really? Where am I gonna go?
mm-mm.
And that's the thing, man. Us in our season age that we're in life at this point, there's no converting to somewhere else. We can't you can't take up fandom for another team in good faith. Like that's just not you at our
So,
age.
so you know what's funny? You say that. I got a cousin. I have a cousin, not by blood, by marriage. So I'm not gonna claim this fool. That's my man, but I gotta keep it 100. So he lives in Louisiana. He is probably equidistant to like the Saints. They're a couple hours away. He's not immediately in New Orleans. He's a few hours away. He's a few hours away from Houston. Dallas is a few hours away. Up until last season, he had always been a Cowboys fan and an Astros fan. Astros because he played baseball and there's some connection there. But he was always a football fan first as a Cowboys fan. Talked to him at the beginning of the season before week one was played. Somehow he applied and got accepted and approved for new fandom. And now he's a Texans fan. So he didn't even like stay in state. He just went down 10 or whatever it is, whatever highway that is, and went from Dallas to the Texans because he thinks CJ Stroud was going to be like that and whatever. How do you I can't see going anywhere else. I'm stuck with these people.
So I guess I have to be fair. We did have a podcast where I went on wax saying that unless the Sixers are playing the Knicks, there's I won't say a rooting interest in the Knicks. I said I don't hate the Knicks. I think maybe that's what I said. I don't hate the Knicks. So I can see him not hating the Texans, but now here's my question. Do you think he will come back to Dallas if Dallas was good again?
Based on the fact that he was so fair weather,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I think he saw the fact that Dallas has been repeated disappointments for the last however 20 some odd years, got tired of it and was like, CJ Stroud is like that and is about to really kind of ascend. So as a result, he was like, I'm out. I'm trying to catch this wave before it really hits. But I don't think he's able to do that.
See, you know what? I commend the forethought if he's trying to catch a wave of a young player that he can grow with this team. right? I'm just saying I commend the idea that he's trying to catch it from the beginning. If they were already red hot, then that's very fan weather.
So we moved from Philly to the Houston area. And the Astros have been good the entire time. And I hear about it every single minute of the day, whether I care about it or not. I rock with the Astros. The Astros are fine, right? They're a great organization. What they do in the community, I see it. I'm aware of it. They are top to bottom. If there's a club that you want to root for, the Astros are right there. The whole scandal a couple years ago, whatever your feelings on that, put that aside. Just the organization itself. Yeah, I mean, look, trash cans and wires, however you feel about that. Look, dudes play baseball. The thing about it is, though, I can't, in good conscience, apply for, like, I can't buy it. If you didn't buy Apple stock, you ain't getting it now, right? Like, if you didn't buy NVIDIA, you're not getting it now. Like, it's too late, right? It's one of those things that you should have done way in the past. I had to get them before they hit. Like, if I wasn't a Lions fan before they were, almost with the Niners about to go to the Super Bowl, it's too late now. So I really, real quick, I'm thinking about this, and I know we were not supposed to be talking about this, but I'm really curious because we got started here. I think we need rules on fandom, like when you can apply. When you could apply. I think we need rules. We are transient people. People do remote work. They got families all over the place. We got direct TV and NFL ticket and YouTube TV. So quite honestly, you have access to things like back in the day. It was like we used to get blacked out for Eagles games locally, right? So if you're going to apply, you cannot join a team that is 500 or better. You cannot.
Okay.
You absolutely cannot.
So that's rule number one.
You cannot.
If you're applying to become a fan of a new team, they cannot be above 500.
When you submit your application for fandom, they've got to be below 500. They cannot be on the verge of like about to really pop off. You got to be in on the ground floor.
Okay, so here's where I'm going to agree with you, but disagree with you for the sake of the argument.
Mm-hmm.
I agree that you need to be invested. It's the only way to be invested. The evidence of your investment is that we didn't show the returns yet, and you got in with us. My only pushback to that is simply when I think about fans and fandom, usually there's something that attracts me, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And a lot of times it's success. Think about even the Phillies and the fact that they've had so many sellouts for years now, right?
Yeah.
It's because of their success. At some point, more fans show up because you are winning the games. So
that's fair.
There's a component to that I agree with you, and I think that maybe that's the Philly fan in us that's like, listen, if you really are going to earn it later, then you have to get it out the mud, and the way you're getting it out the mud is to actually be below 500 when you start.
Dog, let me talk about the mud. I was at like there's what is it? The crust, there's the core, and then there's the mantle, like the parts of the earth. Dog, let me tell you what. I remember back in the day when we used to have like PlayStation 2s and all that other stuff, and Super Nintendos. And I remember having on Madden like 94, right? This was pre-Ricky Waters. Like Keith Byers was my running back. Calvin James. Yo, like I'm out there trying to get it done with Bubby Brister at quarterback. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to hear nobody who's going to all of a sudden like, oh, we got Tank Dell, Nico Collins, and CJ Stroud and Joe Mixon. Dog, I was Keith Sherman.
What do you mean you don't know who Jackson is?
Yeah, I was like the Keith Sherman, right? Come on, man, miss me with that. That was my guy. Like, I don't want to hear nothing about it, man. My dudes weren't getting drafted in no fantasy leagues.
Speaking of which, and maybe this is something I should have considered. I actually have a autographed bottle of a specialty Eagles bottle, Eagles edition vodka and bourbon, signed by one Fred Barnett.
Is that right?
Freddie Barnett.
Freddie Barnett, who made he was the catch? Was that the catch against Buffalo? Randall Cunningham scrambling that play, and then was he the one also in the only playoff game that we won in my childhood against the Saints. I can't remember if he scored a touchdown. That was Calvin Williams. I can't remember who it was. But so
all right. So
rule one.
Rule one.
You cannot. They can't already hit. They can't hit. You got to be early. The other thing is this. You have had to have, in order to apply, because you can't apply for college any time of the year. The window opens in a certain period, right?
Okay.
If you're applying for a job, the job posting is only available for a certain period of time. So if you're going to apply for fandom, you just can't apply at any point, right? There are time limitations on this. So your team either needs to have recently moved, right? Recently moved, or have been perpetually bad. And I mean, because owner doesn't spend, or because there has been just a series of rash and terrible decisions, but it needs to be a long, 3 years ain't long enough. I'm talking about like a solid decade, dog. Like you got to really ride out with it for a solid decade. Like if you're not going through at least 2 Olympics of bad seasons, the window's open. I'm serious.
So let's think about the NFL. I think the NFL probably has the least amount of teams, maybe.
Like it's all about the same. Yeah, okay.
What teams would be eligible to have fans relocate?
All right, so let's talk about it.
Criteria. What teams would be eligible for fans to hit the portal?
So up until Detroit hit really last year, right?
So not Detroit.
Detroit is no longer eligible. You missed that window. It was a year ago, right? Mm-hmm. Because they really hadn't done it. They hadn't made the playoffs. I don't think Detroit had made the playoffs prior to Dan Campbell.
No.
And so, their spell had been forever. Maybe offhand, was it when the Eagles beat them?
Dan Campbell was on the 0-16 team.
Right.
So on the 0-16 team. Like they were still part of that scenario.
He was building. So he might have started getting pieces, and when they hired him and all that stuff. So you missed Detroit's window. The current occupants or current eligible teams.
God, transfer portal. What teams are those? I'm just using your criteria. I just want to make sure.
I feel you. That's a fair question.
I'm like, hey, below 500. Ooh, this is. There's no curve in this one.
That's a fair question. I think you're looking at. God bless it. I hate to say this, but I think my third one, and this gets into the rash decisions, right? Some terrible decisions, right? Because if your team makes a decision that is so loathsome or abhorrent, then you can go ahead and you can apply for early access. You can go ahead and get into the portal early.
Okay.
I think Deshaun Watson might qualify you as an early entrant into the portal. So they've made the playoffs, right? But they got this dude who's out here getting towels and baby oil to everybody in the greater Houston area, and the Bulls got a guaranteed contract and is throwing for like 200 yards, maybe.
Right.
And so Cleveland, God bless these people, hardworking, Midwest, out there on the lakes. It's cold up there. They got to deal with that dude. Get them in the portal. Get the whole city in the portal. Bring the whole damn city in the portal. Oh.
So again, I like that pick. I will say I think it's interesting that again I think you're grading pretty hard on this. What are the rules for fandom? I don't think you are a pro portal guy, if I'm being honest with you.
Okay.
Because the second criteria is almost impossible to meet, and I think, and it is of my opinion, that the third one was created because there was a challenge in identifying eligible teams for the second one alone.
Well, in the NFL, maybe because you typically don't have a 10-year dry spell, right? But keep in mind, though, like in baseball, you got years. Like the White Sox are going to be.
There are tons of eligible teams in baseball.
Right. So, like, as it applies.
Yeah. All right, let's think about the NBA then. Let's think about the NBA.
So in the NBA, I mean, Charlotte, first ballot. Everybody's in. We all in. Brandon Miller, it might be a dude. Brandon might be a dude.
Melo might be a dude too. They both gone.
if he's healthy, right? But everybody in, right? I'm gonna tell you who else might be on the way. The Bulls might be on the way,
Yeah,
right?
I
The
think they're
Bulls
there.
are,
You know what? The Bulls are interesting. See, that's a great pick because even if they make the playoffs, you don't believe them.
that's what I'm saying. That's
You
exactly my
don't
point.
believe them. They're not making the playoffs to win. They're making the playoffs because they won too many games in the regular season.
That's my point.
Like
And
they
look,
can't go on vacation yet.
so Brooklyn had the whole thing where they started with Paul Pierce and KG and Kyrie and then James Harden and then KD and now they got Ben Simmons. Like you went from all of Mikal Bridges was there, all of that, and now it's the Ben Simmons summer workout mixtape again.
Listen, according to his workout guy, he is going to be in all-star form. So, like I said, put your money down now. Comeback Player of the Year, whatever that award is going to one Ben Simmons, number 10 of your Brooklyn Nets.
Hey Sam, if he goes for 15, 8, and 6, he's getting the comeback player of the year.
Listen, people think I'm joking. All I'm going to say is that I said it on wax.
Yeah, he might really be that dude. So I think the rules are obviously going to be more stringent depending on the league and the circumstance, right?
All right, so give me this one then. What's the caveat for the NFL? Since the NFL is a little bit different, or because the one example you gave was a gentleman who is leaving a football team, right? And it's America's team at that, which is a little bit like how could you ever leave America's team? It's the obvious pun is there, but point being, what are the rules for football? Because I feel like football is where it matters most. I think football is where you see the most movement potentially in fandom. I know there's a lot more fair weather football situations, I think, than basketball.
I think there are two criteria, and I think this gets us into our topic tonight, right? So I think the two criteria have got to be, there's ownership and then there's football leadership, right? Ownership is one thing. So if the ownership is going to talk about moving and getting the team out of there, if you want to go from Cleveland to Baltimore, or at one point, I remember back in the day, the Eagles were talking about going to Arizona a long, long time ago, right? If that's the conversation, peace, see you later, right? You can jump in the portal. If you, however, are going to be saddled with a coach and quarterback situation that is going to drive you to drink, right? And then talk on a podcast, then you know what? I understand. I'm not saying that the Eagles are there yet, but for a lot of teams, they probably are, right? Like until Caleb Williams showed up, Chicago has had a rotate. Caleb Williams might be the best quarterback except from Jay Cutler that the Bears have had since 1985. And he's been struggling, right? So if your leadership and your quarterback really drive you to drink, then dog, I get it. Get in the portal. Get right there. Don't pass. Go. Collect $200. Whatever.
That is a perfect segue to tonight's one of tonight's topics. Eagles. They get the big win in the Big Easy. But are we good or no? And it's funny you talked about the coach quarterback combination, and I think that's one of the things you walk away in a huge win against the number one offense in the NFL. Yep. Scored 91 points after 2 weeks, could run the ball effectively against anyone they wanted to, could pass the ball freely. All of a sudden, they run into a roadblock called the Philadelphia Eagles, holding them to 89 rushing yards and about 130 yards in the air. And yet you walk away from that game scratching your head a little bit as the Eagles fan. Here's two things that come to mind. Actually, I'll just leave with one. I just hope that this team is not simply last year's team, meaning you're winning games, but it's like, yeah, but. Like, here's the thing. I remember there was a time I used to rewatch the Eagles wins in the small 15-minute replays. Like being excited about watching the replay of the game. I could watch it multiple times throughout the week.
Yeah.
I haven't watched the replay. I haven't watched the full replay yet. Like I've seen the Saquon runs canned and clipped. I've seen the Dallas Goedert production canned and
run. Yeah.
But I have not watched. I've only watched it one time. Like I don't have an interest and desire to rewatch the replay.
Do you think that's because? Do you actually believe in them? Like, let me phrase it this way. In what you've seen so far, and I don't think that we can really separate the 3 weeks from last season, right? I think we still carry a little bit of that baggage with us. do you feel any better about like belief or confidence in these dudes?
And that's why last year is so relevant. It's relevant, in my opinion, for two reasons. The first reason I think it's relevant, I'm getting a little bit of feedback here. The first reason I think it's relevant is because last year was the first time I watched football and I just had like a confused look on my face the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't remember watching Eagles football before. Before, if we couldn't beat a team, it's because they were better than us. And it was very obvious to tell to the eye. It's like, hey, we're playing hard. That team's better.
Talent's not there,
Sometimes we
whatever
make
the case
mistakes.
is.
But the way last year's team played, it's like, do you know who you are?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you're watching certain things and you're just scratching your head. It's like ill fit play calls for the situation.
Yeah.
Like it was just, it's like this team is getting in its own way. I never observed a team where I felt they're getting in their own way continuously. And here's a new season, new OCs, new opportunity, a new running back, and a star at that, a guy who's probably right now in the running to be MVP if all the
Well,
votes were cast.
he's definitely the favorite to be offensive player of the year right now. I think that actually is the case. Like Vegas has made him the betting favorite.
So you would think that there's an opportunity to clean the slate and move forward in a different version. And yet and still, here we are again, where this team obviously is getting in its own way. And what makes it frustrating, where the belief is, it's hard to have the full belief, if you will, because you still haven't seen a complete game.
Right.
Can we have one scenario, one performance where the defense stands on its head and then the offense has 8 drives that end in points? I would love to just see a complete game.
You know what, man? I gotta tell you, I think part of what you're describing is reality setting in a little bit. And I don't want to speak for you, so I'll defer. But I can tell when I am like appointment TV. Like I watch all the Eagles games, whatever it is. If I can't see it live, I'm recording it. If I can't watch it, record it. I'm watching it on my phone and peeking at my phone while I'm somewhere else. Right. So like I'm not missing it. And then I'm like every other person who's staying up late and listening to podcasts or watching it on YouTube and hearing the post game, all of that stuff, and then digesting it the next day. I'm that person. And if they lose, I turn the TV off and don't talk to nobody for like 2 days. I'm with all of that. I don't love my kids. I haven't showered. Like all these things happen. But with this team and this, more so this coach, realistically, because I do believe in the names. I do believe in Saquon Barkley. I do believe in AJ Brown. I do believe in Devontae Smith and the offensive line. I don't know if I believe in Jalen Hurts the way that I did. And it's not as much of a reflection on him as it is the effect that Sirianni has had on him.
That's a great point. I like that. I like where you went there, because recently, and I think maybe we touched on it on a offline conversation about the number of quarterbacks that have had a resurgence. But I think when you think about it, right, but the other point is the fact that there have been so many quarterbacks that have never had that resurgence, and they just came in the NFL and they were just sort of deemed as a bust. And the question is simply, were they actually a bust, or was it bad coaching?
Was it a bad situation? And so right before I came here, and not that I'm some great coach, I coach my son's baseball team, right? And when I see certain kids who try out and haven't been around a little bit now, and you play ball, so you know, like you see kids who've been either developed or worked with or experienced the game, whatever it is. Like they know how to dribble, they know how to get off the screen, they might know how to shoot in rhythm, whatever the case might be with basketball, right? And with Sirianni, I'm looking at him and I'm trying to identify real key tells as to whether or not he's good. I look at around the league and I'm seeing dudes like Geno Smith get a contract. Pete Carroll all of a sudden is a good coach. He got a hold of Geno Smith, who is nothing, and he blows up. Sam Darnold is leading the Vikings right now. He's 3-0 right now, or 2-1, 3-0, whatever it is, and they are playing exceptionally well. Nobody had that team leading the NFC Central, and they're right there. You got who's my man? Justin Fields out in Pittsburgh, 3-0. Justin Fields was a first-round pick that was literally had for nothing. Nothing. They picked him up as a bag of peanuts. And right now, the Steelers look like, yo, they're going to their defense, and if their offense gives them anything, they're going to be a problem.
Right.
All of these dudes who were reclamation projects. And meanwhile, we've got a coach who has every single toy at his disposal, and I'm not sure what I'm seeing.
Right.
Right. So, like, coaching definitely matters. And I'm either going to say Jalen Hurts is at least as talented as Brock Purdy, right? So why can't I get similar results as Brock Purdy? Particularly when I got the line, the receivers, the tight end, what's happening? Jalen and Sirianni.
Some would argue that Jalen Hurts isn't as talented as Brock Purdy. You know, like there's a debate about who's a better passer of the football. You know, like I listen to Dan Orlovsky, and he talks about how Brock Purdy hits the ball out. He's great with anticipation. Guys turn, and the ball's right there, and blah 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 blah. And you know, there are still conversations about. It seems as if the book is to still have Jalen beat you in the pocket.
But isn't that coaching? Isn't that coaching? Right? Like if the book, if we know the book, then we know how to write a response. Right? If I know the argument, it's like 8 Mile, right? Like if I'm Rabbit and I know you're about to drop these bars, yeah, I'm a white dude, yeah, I'm trailer trash, I'm gonna say it first. And then you got no response. If I know how you're going to fight me, I have a counter.
And listen, I think it's up to Jalen to develop his counter moves. You know, you can say it's coaching, but you know, and that's why I think this is a valid conversation, because what I'm seeing on the field, I don't know if I can point all the fingers at the coaching. In terms of some of the decision making, you know, Jalen Hurts is leading the NFL in turnovers.
No, you definitely can't. You definitely can't. I agree.
You know, and so it's, you know, I see a guy scramble. I see a potential play in the flat. I think he's trying to make a bigger play. He runs with the ball. The ball's a loaf of bread in his hand.
Yeah.
Real incidental contact. The ball's going. You know, so I have to assume that they coached him up on this before. You know, at some point, just because the coach is not going to ever say to him, we've told Jalen to secure the ball, like that, he's not going to publicly say that. But I have to assume that that's part of the conversation, ball security, with Jalen Hurts specifically. You know, so if the player isn't responding to that, is it because he's not being coached? You know, I think the other part in terms of coaching, though, where I believe there is a correlation, is that Jalen Hurts has, to me, a bit of a component that I saw in Carson Wentz, where you're trying to make the biggest play on every play.
Yeah.
And I think the correlation with coaching is that when you have a coach that goes for it on every fourth down, I think it devalues in your mind the value of the possession. I think it is that you mentioned it earlier when we were talking about the Madden effect. If the coach sees it like a video game, maybe that is wearing off on the player. Now the quarterback doesn't value each possession properly because he's thinking, I'm gonna have another down. And with this roster, all I need is another opportunity anyway. We're gonna score points. So maybe there's more risks that he's taking that he shouldn't. Maybe he's not coached to do it per se, but the overall tone of the coach tells him I can always go for it.
To go back to some rules for a quick second, right? Let's establish a couple of things that we already do, because I don't want the conversation to go too far afield, but we don't. The Eagles are 2-1.
Yes.
Jalen Hurts did lead essentially a game-winning drive, yes, right? And Sirianni was part of all of that, right? So I don't think it's fair to dismiss the fact that happened. Sirianni was obviously instrumental in it. Jalen executed. Ball was on time. They got to make the play. The Eagles, scored and went ahead, won the game, right? Shout out to them. Great job. However, I don't think we can dismiss what we see. And what we see is it's Madden. It is not indifference, but it's certainly a recklessness or a cavalier way in which you mentioned hold the ball like a loaf of bread. Dog, like at some point in time, get rid of it. And I'm not here to tell him his job, but what I do see is You got enough guys that if you continue to put yourself in chances to be successful, right, and limit mistakes, you're going to be successful. If we stop giving the ball away, the more chances you give this group, you're going to score points. And so handing the ball over on a play or kicking a field goal for 60 yards, right? Like, what are we doing? Give Barkley, Brown, Smith, Goddard, Dotson, Michael, Tito, Randy, Janet, all of them, like, give them a chance. Maybe not Janet. Janet out here wilding on Kamala, so maybe not her, but give everybody else a chance, though. I don't get it. 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 So like I said, I'm looking at the rest of the league and I'm thinking the Eagles are really good. They've got a whole lot on their plate in terms of ability and what's in front of them. And the division seems to suffer. And we don't really know who's good in the NFC. But yet, I don't feel any more confident in these dudes because I'm looking at what's happening and I'm seeing the effect of coaching. And I don't know that the effect is positive. It is a plus for us, where I see it as a plus for the Vikings. I see it as a plus for the Steelers. I see it as a plus for San Francisco, even though they're struggling. Brock Purdy's not been the issue. I see it a plus for Seattle. Shoot, I see Jared Goff. We were talking about this earlier. Sam, they gave Jared Goff. You had to give Detroit a first-round pick to take Jared Goff. What are we talking about here? Malik Willis was nobody, and Green Bay just won a game with that dude. I don't know.
These are facts. It's fascinating. I'll tell you this much. They're going to figure out something later, and there's going to have to be real evidence that something has been corrected. Because I don't think that they have the luxury of sputtering if they're winning games, sputtering through the regular season looking like this. I don't think that that's what management expected.
No.
And so it's going to be on the coach and quarterback to right this ship. Obviously, I think we are all in agreement that if it goes uncorrected long enough, the coach will be replaced first.
Yep.
Now we say that, but I mean, no, there's no scenario where the coach decides to go with another quarterback.
No.
At that point,
your audio changed. Your audio changed. I don't know.
Test it.
You're good.
Good to go.
Yep, that's better.
Yeah, so I mean, you're right, because if he did that, then he's at that point he's tenured his own resignation if he makes that kind of switch. So my final point with the Birds, I think, is simply they eerily remind me of last year, which is very disappointing. I will say again, let me take a moment and acknowledge the defense. Forgive me, because they're the reason we're 2-1. We're talking about the quarterback and how he effectively did have a game-winning drive, which is true. Granted, the pass wasn't far downfield. There was a lot of heavy lifting by the tight end. There was another big yard or breakout 65-yard run for another score by Saquon. So, he was. I say all that to say that the defense was the reason we were in the game. And I'm telling you this, man, if this was the coming out party of Jalen Carter and even Jordan Davis, to stop the run as effectively as they did, but to get pressure on a quarterback from the interior, like it was watching Fletcher Cox and Hargrave again. Like that's what I was looking at. I said, my goodness, if these guys have truly arrived, then this team is scary. I will say it's unfortunate that we still have no statistics from Huff. Bryce Huff has been playing in 3 games, and if you look at his stats, he hasn't played yet other than the fact that he's recorded for minutes and snaps.
I know we weren't doing the pod when during training camp. We were in a hiatus, whatever it was. I remember Vic Fangio saying that he has to learn how to be an every down player. Like he's got to learn kind of the role. He only played limited snaps with the Jets or whatever it was. And so he was learning. Hey, Sam, I have never been offered. Like when I apply for a job, I need to have the majority of the skills that the description has in order for me to get that job. I have never been offered a job. I wish I was offered. This is how I know we as a people have really come up, right? Where you get offered a job and you ain't got none of the skills that's required, dog, and then get paid $50-some million. Dog, this cat got paid $50-some odd million.
Premium.
Right. And like you're expecting a ready-made, just add water, drop and go beast. This dude, like
He
we're
doesn't even need to know the Phillies.
no, but like we're giving him Sam, Brandon Graham is getting more done than he is right now.
Yo, shout out to BG, man. Shout out to BG. Yo, funny story. Alvin actually just ran into him at Chicky and Pete's.
Oh, where?
They sent me some photos. That was really cool, man. Shout out to the OG BG. 15 years in the league, all for your Philadelphia Eagles. And he is still getting it done at a high level, man. Like, he's still very disruptive. And it's interesting because they're using him on the outside.
Yeah.
It's like where I'm thinking Huff should be. I'm looking at 5'5" out there, you know? So he's like, let me show you how to do it. Let me show you how to get it done. He's leading my example.
And no, listen, it's incredible that he's performing at such a level, but dog, like he's 30-some years old. Like we didn't pay this dude for a 30-some-year-old man to lead in that position. Like he is to replace you, spell you, keep him fresh, let him come in and be the vet. You go to work and do the lion's share of the work. Uh-oh. I've just lost you as well, I think. Can I hear you? Can you hear me?
I lost you.
All good. Can you hear me?
I got no audio on you.
Uh-oh.
Let me try something. I don't know what's going on here. Sorry about that.
All good.
Testing.
I got you.
And you're not on mute, correct?
No.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Touch nothing. Hands up.
I'm good.
All right. So let's do this. So the defense, again, I think if those two young bulls are legit and this was their coming out party, let it ride, let it roll. Let the league put the league on notice that not only can they stop the run effectively, but they can also disrupt your quarterback. So now you got to have extra pass blockers. I'm good with that. Send less guys on routes because you got to worry about protection. I thought our secondary fared well. I don't know what's going on with Darius Slay. Yo, what's up with the New Orleans Saints, man? It was a pretty chippy game. Like, there was a lot of plays there that were so uncalled for. I've never, like,
the Devontae Smith play was out of pocket, yo. Like the fact he's going back, I understand that you play to the whistle. I hear all of that, right? I get it. Devontae Smith, his momentum had been stopped. He had been held up. He was actually retreating at this point in time. And you got this big boy that just comes out and cleans him out. Like, seriously, if the NFL was serious about safety, I get the fact that the play had not been stopped. But we are essentially talking about a play where you have a defenseless player who was held up and just smashed into by a 300-pound man traveling at full speed. Right? Like, what are we doing? Like, I get the fact, like, the NFL is so about safety. They play Mondays, they play Thursdays, they're going to play Friday later in the year, they're going to play Saturday later in the year, they're going to play Sunday. So we really are not about safety because we're going to really play based on whenever we can play because our body doesn't need to recover. Right? But you can't let that happen on the field. You do the hip, they cut out the hip drop tackle, they cut out the horse collar tackle. They need to cut that nonsense out. Because Jalen Carter was on 10 at the end of the game, and I'm sure it was about all of the stuff that you just did.
Of course it was. It was that. It was. Then you see after he gets hit, there's another player that comes in to act like he's going for the football. He sees the guy is clearly concussed. The helmet is off him. He dives, bangs his head into Devontae Smith as he's unconscious. Then there's footage as to whether or not he spat on the way up and whether or not it was intended to hit Devontae. Then you had a situation with Slay where he gets blocked into the sideline. The coaches of New Orleans is telling their guy to stop. Like, yo, the play's over. He's out. Like, it was so obvious that their heads, however they were coached up to play that game, they were going through the whistle.
Yeah.
And so, like, to me, it was weird to watch that. And interestingly enough, if there was one team that was, that should be on its P's and Q's, you would think it's New Orleans that was hit with the bounty, situation.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, but again, man, kudos to the defense. Interested in time, I definitely want to make sure that we show our love for the one team that is in the postseason. That did clinch. That is NL East champs for the first time. I want to say they said first time since 2011. So 13 years. NL East champs, man. The first time for this, right? So the first time for this group, I think it's part of the maturation and the development, and ultimately the ability to have it all at the end. We've always started the postseason from a different pole position.
Yeah.
And so maybe this is the year something different happens. And it's funny, I was listening to sports radio in Philly, and they were talking about how they were upset that they weren't the underdogs. And my whole thing is, well, who cares? You want them to win the whole thing, right? I can see if you're upset that they're underdogs when they won as underdogs, but if they didn't win as underdogs, why are you holding on to them being underdogs? They're a better team now.
Do you remember? Out of curiosity, do you remember they beat? Nobody is going to go back and be like the Phillies in 2008, last time we won the World Series, are going to go back and be like, yo, they had the most incredible path. Nobody, not one person, you, me, or anybody else we know or lives in 215 is going to be like, yo, the World Series title is diminished because they played the Brewers, the Dodgers, and then finished against the Rays. Not one person says that. I was on Broad Street. I'm gonna tell you right now, I didn't care nothing about who they beat that day.
With an abbreviated or like a game that's
the regular start. Yeah. Nobody cares about that. Like, we won, and so the idea, this team. Listen, the vibes are at a 10, right? The vibes are at a 10. We got soundtrack. Yo, I went on Spotify and found like a 90-song playlist that the Phillies win that Garrett Stubbs has on Spotify, right? That of all the songs they play in the clubhouse. Like, it's crazy. The vibes are at an all-time high. It only matters if they win at this point.
Right. They're not playing that song anymore. I'll keep dancing on my own. Like, they're like, yeah, that song is for losers. Like, they're like, we love the guy and all, but they can't, like, again, they're not the wild card team anymore. So stop acting like it. And they're like, yo, we're not showing up to the party with that this is our song anymore. We're not those guys anymore.
My concern, and I said this to you last week, my concern is that I think this team is equipped. I think they got talented dudes. I am concerned about parts of the lineup where you're relying on dudes who are often kind of like subbed in or platooned, right? Guys who aren't regular contributors. Now you're putting a lot of stress on the top half of the lineup. And I'm worried about like dudes like Cal Stevenson or Buddy Kennedy or Brandon Marsh. And I just hope that doesn't deflate them, because they deserve it. This group works hard. This group represents the city they put on. And I really want to see it happen. But yo, I'm gonna be out here smoking cigarettes and biting every single nail I got starting next week. It's like, this is what it is.
I am confident that this team is prepared for such a time as this. If there's any team in baseball that you think is equipped to make a run to the World Series, it has to be the Fighting Phillies.
I pray.
It has to be. So I can't lose faith if I feel like they were built for this.
Yeah.
And so far, the evidence suggests that it is true. This is the team that was built for this. They won the NL East this time.
If they score 4 runs, I think you are in every single baseball game.
Listen, they're going to win games without scoring 4 runs because they also have masterful pitching, and the bullpen is good. Like, to me, this team is legit. We just got to believe.
I hope.
This is where the fans come in.
Remember the first question I asked you.
They've done what they're supposed to do thus far. There's nothing that they've done for us to not have belief in them at this stage. But each year they have improved. Now they're in poll number 1. Oh, I guess the Dodgers, right? Like,
maybe it might be the Dodgers, right? It might be the Dodgers.
Remember
when we started
baseball.
When we started this conversation, I asked you, what is the hardest thing? Is it a husband, father, or being a Philadelphia sports fan? Like I'm going to be an amazing dad as soon as my
Did you
kids
have
are
more confidence in this team last year?
I'm sorry?
Did you have more confidence in this team last year going into the postseason?
You know what? What it was is I hadn't been hurt yet. I hadn't been hurt. So
you need to speak to someone. This is what's happening right now.
Listen, man, look, my deductible is a little too high to be talking to cats right now. Look, so my thing was that when you lose at home to Arizona, right, I had that sewn up in my mind. Like that was as bad to me. That was as bad to me as it was Eagles Tampa years ago. Because we were 3-2. The bank is supposed to be hitting. Everybody's there. We're good to go. We got to get one, and we're in the World Series. Just give me one, and we don't get it. And all of a sudden, I'm thinking to myself, like, my expectations were here. My belief was here.
Once we won one on the road, we knew we had it.
We came back 2-0.
We got that win on the road because that was the whole sort of like template for all the other games. We just had to steal one on the road, and every time we did, it's like we got you because you're not winning here. We got you because you can't win here. Them young bulls came in and we're like, watch this. They look like the Savannah Bananas.
Listen, and shout out to Savannah Bananas.
They were just in Philadelphia.
Listen, I didn't realize who they were. Like, have you followed them before? Have you ever heard? They are a big deal.
I heard the guy's story, and it was really fascinating, and it's really inspiring. Like, again, he started out similar to what we're doing right now. He just had a passion for sports and just stayed committed with it, stayed connected with it, had an opportunity to do, like, broadcasting at minor league games, was, like, really into it, had a flair for it, and just kind of, like, continued and thought some things through a little bit differently and, took risks, obviously, but they have quite a thing going on now. Man. I've watched some of their games. It's just like, who are these dudes?
Well, listen, for cats who are uninitiated, the Savannah Bananas are basically a traveling baseball Harlem Globetrotters.
Exactly.
And they, baseball is not necessarily thought of as like a trick play kind of thing, but you got guys who will field the ball between their legs. They have different dance routines. They have certain rules where, like, if the ball's hitting foul territory and somebody catches it, it's an out. They have all kinds of stuff. I didn't hear about them until I moved here, and their games sell out right away.
I didn't even know about it, but I would love to get my kids to a Savannah Banana game. Like, if there's any game I would buy to get my kids to of professional sporting events, that's what it is.
So you have to. There's a lottery. You have, like, we have tried, and you have to sign up for an email. And when that thing hits your Gmail or Yahoo, or if you still old school rocking a Hotmail account, whatever, like if it hits, you need to sign up right away because I'm telling you, when people see it, they do not waste time. Right away. Right away. They sell out right away. Right away. I'm telling you. And they travel. So obviously they're in Georgia. They're in Savannah, Georgia. But they travel to different locations, and they tickets go quickly in every single venue. They sold out Citizens Bank Park.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. They sold out the bank while the Phillies were playing on the road. And I guarantee you some Phillies fans in there.
Listen, I don't know if you saw who was there. Joe Blanton was there. Jimmy Moyer was there. Victorino was there. Ryan Howard was there. That was pretty cool. That's pretty cool to see those dudes.
Daryl Morey was there.
Daryl Morey, can we talk about it real quick? I can't wait for the Sixers to come back. I can't wait for the Sixers.
Daryl Morey was there, man. I saw a clip of the Sixers. I saw a clip of the Sixers at practice, and all I thought to myself is, wow, this is really my team. Like, this is really my team.
Hinkie died for this,
It's like, this is really my team. I'm looking at a picture. PG looks happy. He has his hand on who's the bull from France?
Yabusele Gershon.
Yes, one arm on Yabusele. They're both looking at Maxey, and it's just like, I'm looking at this roster. I'm like, oh my goodness. Good vibes only, man.
I cannot wait. I cannot wait. Listen, let me tell you, the only thing that would make me happier.
That's why the Eagles are so critical. The Eagles are critical because the Eagles and Phillies live off of each other's like energy. Like they are going at the same time. And it's really, really cool here. I know you're in Texas. I'm telling you, Malik, it is really cool. In October, over the last few years, when the Eagles start getting revved up, and remember, the last few years, the Eagles haven't really been losing early in the season.
Listen,
so you're talking undefeated Eagles generally in the month of October. Meanwhile, you have a team that's trying to win the whole thing, right? So it's been rocking and rolling.
Listen, let me just tell you, I have no problem not feeding my kids to get on a plane and buy a ticket. I have no problem.
And then once the Sixers tossed it up,
listen, my wife was at she was at the Phillies game in the NLCS last year. We've gone to Houston Phillies here when they were in the World Series. Look, listen, these dudes I don't care where I'm at, those are my dudes. I have not applied for new fandom. Those are my dudes. So
I still don't have a problem with the New York Knicks as presently constructed. I don't have a problem with them. It'll be really fun beating them. I will revel in the games that we get a chance to beat that team because I think it's just going to help us anyway, beating a team that I think is going to have a certain style of play that'll only make us tougher, more competitive. It's like it'll bring something out of this roster that is required if they're going to go all the way. So I like the fact they're in our division. I like the fact that they're on our radar. I like the fact that they knocked us out of the playoffs last year because to me, outside of the Celtics, like that's the team that I think we're going to cut our teeth with in order to have the confidence to ultimately go after the Celtics.
You know what? I'm
looking with the Bucks right now.
I'm sorry, what about the Bucks? What about?
I said I'm not as concerned with the Bucks right now.
I mean, like shout out to Doc Rivers, but no, I'm good. I'm good. I'm concerned with. I love the fact that we signed Gershon because I believe, even though he's probably not likely to start right away.
Who?
Gershon, Yabusele Gershon,
okay.
the ball from France, right? They call him Beignet Wallace, right?
Got it.
Even though he's not likely to start, what he does is provides an aggression on the offensive rebounding side, offensive and defensive rebounding side. And so the one area where I'm starting to wonder, like I'm looking at the Olympics, I know Embiid is coming off of a spell where he's coming off of injuries, trying to work back into shape, and we'll see what he looks like going into the season. My thought was he looked really slow, like the rebounding deficiency, a lot of that falls on him, right? Not the second jump, not there. Boxing out, not there. He's always been in drop coverage off of a pick and roll, right? So if they're able, other teams are able to take advantage of that. We're going to need someone bigger than Caleb Martin, right? Bigger than Ricky Council IV, who is going to be able to slide in and take some of that onus, that burden off of him. And I think Gershon can do that. Yeah. And so that for me was a really sneaky, really smart move to fill a space where we knew what Marquise Morris was. Like he would have been there, right? I like this because here's a dude who is motivated. Here's a dude who we just saw dunk on the USA Dream Team or whatever it is. Let's go see him dunk on LeBron. Go out there and get it. Go out there and get it.
I love it. I think you hit the nail on the head in terms of your assessment with this pick. I think Daryl Morey saw precisely the same thing. He saw a hobbling Embiid, realized it's already a deficiency when it comes to this team, and knew that he didn't have size in terms of granted, Paul George is going to give you additional rebounding, but I'm sure it's going to be comparable to Tobias's numbers for the most part.
Right.
Give or take, like it's a wash there. So you needed to gain an advantage somewhere else on your roster. And I think when he's in the game, it's going to be very evident. And again, it's a mindset. When you have guys that have certain mindsets on the
court, it's a mindset.
I think Council getting minutes this year, and just even with Caleb Martin, like I like this roster. We got some dogs on this team.
You got dogs.
Thinking about a championship run, you need dogs.
Let's go! I cannot wait for those dudes to show up.
So I mean, I think we got dogs on the Sixers. I know we got dogs on the Phillies. You know what I mean? And now the question is about the dogs on the Eagles. I know we got, and defensively, we got some dogs, man. Offensively, Saquon is a dog. He knows who he is all the way through.
So real quick, to your dogs conversation, right? Dion does Coach Prime does something really interesting. I think it's really interesting,
Leaders
right?
and dogs.
Leaders and dogs. So real quickly before we wrap up, let's leaders and dog this thing real fast, right? Let's leaders and dog this thing. I'm gonna throw a name at you. You tell me leader or dog. All right. Bryce Harper.
Who?
Bryce Harper. Leader or dog?
Bryce Harper's a dog.
Tyrese Maxey.
Tyrese, I think, is a. Oops. That's not what I meant to do. Tyrese. I would put Tyrese. See, it's weird. See, it's funny because even Coach Prime said it that some are like some you have leaders and dogs, and I feel like Tyrese is one of those guys because when him going for 50 the way he did shows you that he's got it in him. Like when he took that game over, it's like that's the dog right there. The leadership, I want to see it, but I know he has the dog in him. I know he's not afraid of the moments. Now, will he lead? I think this is his opportunity, but he's already shown that he ain't scared.
So Sam, leader or dog? We playing leaders or dogs?
Can I come back to that one?
All right, last one for me then. Okay. Nick Sirianni, leader or dog?
Can I specify the kind of dog?
Puppy. We don't know what kind of species he is. We don't know what kind of species. We don't know what kind of breed he is.
I'll be quick. In the interest of time, I'll answer the question about Tyrese Maxey. If I'm looking at what Dion does, and Dion's boys is an L, and he has leader for one and then dog for other, I think Bryce is a dog because I love the way he guts out. Like, and even Bryce is a dog. He's a dog who's a leader, but he's a dog. Tyrese, I think, Tyrese to me is both. Like, he honestly is both. If I had to put
right here on the jersey, right here is either L or a D.
I would put a D on him for him. You know what it's like? It's almost like what you do with Neo when the Oracle told him that he's not the one, right? It's like, and then Morpheus like, listen, she only told you what you needed to hear, and he still showed and proved that he was. I feel like Tyrese needs to see that D on his chest to know.
You see, all right, and then Sirianni,
your qualities and characteristics that's going to shine through. He needs to know that we see you as that dog that we know you are.
Okay, and Sirianni.
Mm-hmm.
Leader or dog? I have to choose one. This is frustrating, man. I gotta do it now. Like, I'm literally on the clock, like it's the NFL. Do.
Right.
I'll say I'll pass. Neither.
Well, maybe. For the sake of the rest of the season, he needs to be a leader. For the sake of the season.
You know what? You're right. And the reason I was perplexed is because he wants to be a dog, but that's not your role.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
It should be an easy decision what the coach is.
He has to be a leader. And a leader is not worried about a claim. He's not worried about who gets credit. He is worried about the job. He has to be a leader.
There's the rub. Sirianni, don't worry about being a dog. Be a leader of this team that needs your leadership. Needs leadership. Maybe it's yours, maybe it's not. We'll know. But it needs leadership, so you might as well give it yours.
There we go.
Well, folks, thank you for joining us tonight. Catch us next week, every Wednesday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to be live, so you can join us on the next episode. We'd love for you to send you the link. Just hop on with us, and we'll be there. Again, the Philadelphia Sports Podcast. Till next time, folks. Peace.